the Lord, Yahweh, said to the serpent in the garden, because of what you've done, there is going to be a seed that comes through the woman that you deceived that is going to crush your head. You are going to bruise its heel. That was God saying, this is what the Messiah is eventually going to do. Whether anybody understood that at the time or not, I doubt it. But so Satan was looking at it and going, all right, so what's the very first two people that come out of Adam and Eve? Cain and Abel. Cain gets all upset and kills Abel. And I happen to think, now this is Markology 101, okay? This is not, but I happen to think that Cain was being harassed by the serpent all by himself. Amen. Just like his mom had been. Amen. Like, really? You're going to let that kid get away from it, get away with it? Why, he's not any better than you. He's not any better than you. Why wouldn't God accept your offering? God's obviously not a just God. Why? Because Satan is the accuser. Mm-hmm. And so he's always accusing. He's accusing God of not being fair. He's accusing people. And I happen to think that the reason that Cain killed Abel, his brother, was in part because of the jealousy that had been provoked by this same serpent that had been messing with his mother. If I'm wrong, I don't think anybody's going to go to hell over it. The first two to come out of the womb, one of them's dead, and the other one's discredited and cast out of the group. And Satan's always looking for that. Down through the history of the Old Testament, Satan is always looking for, how can I make sure that child that is going to eventually crush my head isn't born, doesn't get the opportunity to do it? How can I kill it? How can I discredit it? How can I do whatever I need to do? And those are spiritual battles. And I think that there are angels. And when I say angels, people say, you can say demons, whatever. There's a technical difference between fallen angels and demons, but it is a spiritual battle that's going on. And God has his army. When Satan was tempting Jesus in the desert, he could have commanded angels to come down and protect him, but he didn't. Well, that means that they were there. That means that they existed, and they could have. The president is not God, not by a long shot, but the president is not God, but the president represents us as a group. And guess what? You represent us as a group. And you represent us as a group. We all do. There are people that I will never meet. There are people I can never reach. There are people who look at me and I'm just a pasty old white man from the Midwest with great fashion sense. But it's not, hey, no need to laugh at that.
My cat told me.
I only wear what my wife tells me to wear.
Your Secret Service is here.
Yeah, exactly. There are people I will never reach because I can't. They'll take one look at me and their ears will go closed. That you can reach. That you can reach. There are people that you have credibility with that I'll never have credibility with. So you are bearing that image of God. And when the time comes and someone's ears are opened and you have the ability to reach someone, those angels will be there to protect that word. Those angels will be there to protect that situation. You ever have one of those moments where you're talking to someone and you suddenly realize, oh, here's my opportunity to tell them about Jesus, and I didn't even realize. Like, I don't actively go out door to door and knock on doors and tell people about Jesus. I think if you're led to do that, then do it. But if you're led to do it, do it. And as a matter of fact, I had a prayer meeting this morning with a guy who does that. And it means the world to him. But he's in prayer about it all the time, and he knows that that's what he's supposed to be doing. For each one of us, whether we're looking for it or not, there'll be that magic moment where everything just sort of clicks and you suddenly realize, oh, here's my chance to tell somebody about what God means to me. When you're in those moments, it's like all the confusion goes away. Mm-hmm. All the street noise suddenly dies. The birds stop chirping. Everything is just guarded and protected in that moment so that that word can go forward and reach into that heart and mean something. I've had those moments where people have spoken to me and I've heard them talk to me over and over and over again, never heard a damn word they said. And suddenly, boom, it's there. And I'm like, whoa, you're smarter than I thought you were. And we each have those moments. And I think that that's a part of what happens there. God creates these special magic moments where our eyes can be opened, our ears can hear, and the environment is protected. I didn't come to the Lord because I went to a church service. Far from it. I was never going to a church service. I was just working with a guy. And there came a point where suddenly I was able to hear what he said. He was always trying to tell me about Jesus. I didn't necessarily know that at the time. Anyway, let's get back to Ahab. He married Jezebel. Probably not a good idea. You know, they talk about unequally yoked. Find somebody who's sort of running on the same track you are, who kind of wants the same things you do. It said, he took for his wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. So this is a guy who was an Israelite. He knew who Yahweh was. He knew who the God of his people were. But he didn't care about that. Why? Because he had this woman. And you can think what you want, but maybe they were madly in love. Sometimes the person you love, sometimes your friends drag you in a direction that you probably shouldn't go. And he erected an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he built in Samaria. Again, Baal is this god that demands child sacrifice. Ahab made an Asherah. And I talked about this last week. Asherah is a giant pole that represents a phallic symbol, or penis. There, I got to say penis 2 weeks in a row in a Bible study.
Yes.
And I feel my ministerial license heating up in my back pocket. But the fact was, it was a fertility goddess, and they would go and they would have these orgies that were a form of worship. I don't recommend this. This is not part of the Bible study, but as a part of my past, I have read the Satanic Bible. And one of the things it talks about is the power that is involved in sex. The power emotionally, the power spiritually. That's why be careful what you do with yourself, because you really are opening spiritual doors, whether you think you are or not.
Some that you can't close.
Some that you can't close. And I'll tell you what, if you start messing with, I have a few people in my life, some people who've been very close to me, who've messed with occultism, who've messed with satanic practices, who've messed with witchcraft, who have ended up committing suicide later in life because they opened a door that they just couldn't figure out how to close. Now, God will close that door if you'll repent of it, but it's not easy. It will mess with you. I have a person very, very close to me, graduated high school with, became a relative of his. And when we were in high school, he thought he was the smartest kid in class because he had found the Satanic Bible, and he started reading it. And he had 2 or 3 other of his little friends, and they just thought they were so much smarter than everybody else because they had this inside track on this spiritual thing. Now, I wasn't a believer at the time. I didn't know anything about anything, but I knew there was something inherently evil that just felt awful about what he was messing with. He tried to get me involved, and I was not. I read the Satanic Bible during that time period because I thought, well, I have an open mind, and I read it, and I just went, whoa, dude. But there are some concepts in there that are actually true. They're not good. They're not lovely. They're not pure. They're not for your best interest. But some of those concepts are true. And that's what hooks you. Because your spirit immediately goes, oh, I identify with that. I identify with that. And then suddenly you're just playing with fire. And that fire plays with you. So he got into this relationship. I don't know what kind of a guy he was before. It might have been, singer in the choir. He might have been an altar boy. Who knows? Or he might have just been a thoroughly rotten piece of garbage. He took as a wife someone who was completely raised and steeped in this awfulness.
Jumping Japanese Jesus.